All right, it is my pleasure to just do a very brief introduction of Lucy Brazier. I'll give a more formal introduction before her presentation tomorrow, but we want to go ahead and dive into this interview panel here. They thought it would just be really nice to have Lucy and Joan just come up and do a very informal interview with each other. Lucy is the CEO of Marsham Publishing. She's also an ambassador, international ambassador for the administrative profession. And so I think you will enjoy this next half hour of questions and answers and knowledge and expertise from two of the most experienced in the field. So Joan and Lucy Brazier, come on up.
Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along.
Oh, let's sit. And first of all, I do have to say this was Lucy's idea, actually. Lucy, you came up with it, when I invited you to come here and speak, which Lucy's doing a fabulous presentation tomorrow, so you don't want to miss it. And Lucy said, hey, why don't I interview you? And I'm like, well, okay.
I love this. I love this. Good morning, everybody. How great to see you. And I have to say I was particularly keen to interview Joan on this occasion of celebrating 30 years of her in business. You know, all of us stand on the shoulders of this giant. She is the visionary. She is the person who first realized that you all needed training, and without her, we wouldn't all be here today. So I am so delighted to be asking her some questions. Thank you, Joan. So I guess we should start at the beginning, shouldn't we? What inspired you, Joan, in the first place to get involved in training administrative professionals, and what gave you the vision for what that could end up being?
Wow. So I was 38 years old. I'll do the quick story. But I was 38 years old, so I had been in the career for 18 years at that time. And I had a great career. I worked in 12 different companies in 5 states. So I had a lot of different experiences. And I don't know, I just woke up one day and I was like, I don't want to be doing this when I'm 40. And it wasn't because I didn't love it. It's just I had all these awesome experiences and I had evolved, but I didn't know what I was going to do. All I knew was how to be a secretary. I did not have a college degree. It was my whole life, and I just thought, I don't know, but what do I want to do? And so it was thanks to a great girlfriend who I had met at Steelcase where I was working. She was our employee assistance manager. Her name was Vo, and we became good friends. And one day Vo said, hey, why don't you teach assistants how to be a great assistant? Well, the funny thing is, all through my childhood, I wanted to be a teacher. And so I don't know, I was like, that the light bulb went off, and she got me thinking, and I thought, but wow, I don't know anything about this. And then really, I just started to realize there was a big gap between the education assistants were receiving at that time, which was really nothing, and what leaders were receiving. And I started to think, this doesn't make sense. I'm supporting this person, they're elevating, and they're going up like this with education, development, leadership retreats, right? And I was like this as far as career training and development. And that made no sense because I thought, I'm running their life. Something's wrong with this picture. And what ended up happening, my girlfriend Vo and I, we actually went away for a girls' weekend to relax, and that was the weekend Office Dynamics was born. And we were going to team train, and we did start that, and then I moved away 2 years later, went to Memphis, Tennessee. I put it on hold, went back to being a secretary, but it did not, I couldn't let it go. And so then I started to find mentors and offering little free classes where I was working. I just raise my hand and I'll say, I'll do it, don't pay me more money, and I'll do it on my own time, and I just want to get my feet wet, helping other assistants.
So what kind of pushback did you have on that? Because I know that you know, for a lot of businesses, even still, we need training for the assistants. What do you mean we need training for the assistants? The assistants just do what they do.
Yeah. The pushback was horrible. It was very discouraging, especially imagine 33 years ago. And at that time, I did cold calling. I didn't have money. In fact, my husband and I had some debt. We had 2 little children. And then you had to do it the old-fashioned way, and that was to pick up the phone. You had to find companies. I had to find companies in my area. And my husband had been in sales all his life, so he's like, here, you have to make 10 calls a day. And out of 10, you should get through to 1, at least. It's all statistics. So I would be on that phone every day, and I can't tell you how many said, they don't need training. We don't invest in our assistants. What? Are you kidding? No, we only spend money on our executives and our leaders. And I just kept getting the no's and the no's, and I was just determined. I mean, I was discouraged. It was hard. But I wasn't going to give up. And then, I got that first little baby break. And so that gave me a little bit of more encouragement. But that's how I started in the early days. And speaking free wherever I could, just to get exposure. And yeah, that's how it went. And then finally in 1995, I got my first really big break with Caterpillar Corporation and U.S. Airways. So that was my first, those were AT&T, and I started getting my programs out there, and it was like once I got corporate, then it was easier for other corporations to say, hey, we need to be doing that. But it's this, it's still a very hard battle, but we've come a long way. Fortunately.
We really have come an enormous long way. And I know from running my business that it can be really challenging. And we saw some of the personal challenges you had yesterday, but I'm interested in the professional challenges. Obviously, persuading businesses to train assistants in the first place is challenging. But what other challenges did you come across in the last 30 years particularly, and how did you overcome them?
Oh, some of the big challenges were I knew nothing about training. I didn't know how to write curriculum. I didn't know about objectives. I didn't know how to run a small business. I had to learn all of that. So that was a really big challenge because in adult learning, there are specific things you're supposed to do. It isn't just, I'm going to share my best practices with other assistants. And I started studying, and I joined the American Society for Training and Development. So I wasn't even really an official trainer, and I said, that's where I have to be. I have to be around other trainers. I joined the National Speakers Association. I had to learn platform skills. I had to learn how to speak. I was petrified when I first started speaking in front of people, really. I would just shake, and my voice would tighten up, and my mouth would get so dry, and I thought, this is terrible. So overcoming all of those challenges, it was just such new territory. And then because most of our work is on-site training, so in the early days, and still to this day, we're going somewhere different. And so you're not familiar with the company, your room, your people, all of that strange and new, and learning that all the time. I mean, now I know what to do. I have my process, I have my method. But in the early days, I was like this little kid in a dark room, and I didn't have anybody to really maneuver me other than my mentors. I did have speaker mentors, trainer mentors. And then I will say, here's a couple big challenges, because I thought about the question. And first of all, Lucy came up with so many good questions. I really couldn't even answer some of them in my own head. I couldn't. I'm like, I really had to think. But this one, I'll tell you some of my biggest challenges in the early days of training. I had this one client. It was the Department of the Army. We were living in Virginia Beach. And I had numerous sessions to teach. And these were mandatory training. Now, mandatory basically means you have to go, whether you want to or not, and those aren't always the best students in your room if they feel they were forced, versus students who say, hey, I want to go to your class. So I had numerous sessions for the civilians on this base, And within the different groups, I had a variety of people. And I'll never forget the first time I had 4 deaf students in my class. And I didn't know what to do, and we had 3 days together. I did learn what this means. To my friend over there. Yeah. Instead of clapping. But I didn't know. And in that same that same organization, that same group, and another group of them, I had someone who had epilepsy. And so there were some times when she would have an attack right in the room right there, and I would be like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? You know, and I didn't necessarily know this ahead of time. And then I had another gentleman in not in the exact group, there were 3 groups or 4. He had a bullet lodged in his brain. And he couldn't keep up with the pace. He couldn't understand what I was trying to teach. And so I'd always have to go over and work with him one-on-one. And those were my challenges, like learning how to work with all these different people. And then I had 2, I call them Bertha bullies in that room. Yeah, there were 2 of them, and I'll never ever forget them. They were big women, big intimidating women. And at that time you could smoke. And so they didn't want to be in my class, and it was 3 days. And so I think there's a good lesson here for everyone. And during that whole day, and they were doing group activities, they weren't participating. They didn't want to participate. They almost started a fight with the other assistants in the room. I'm like, oh my God, and I have 3 days of you. And so I went up to them and I was like, oh, so, you know, I was trying to be nice. And when you think of, they're like, well, it's a day away from the office. And I thought, oh no, you said the wrong thing to me. You're not just coming here to get out of the office for 3 days. In my head. Well, they would always go out for a smoke break. They always had to go smoke and whatever. And I'd be like, oh my God, you people are driving me nuts. And I wanted to kick them out. But you know what I did? So here's what I said. At the end of the day, I had had enough. They disrupted the other students. Seriously, they said something that offended the others. They were distracting me. At the end of the day, they were like the last to leave. And I said, you know what? I think you ladies shouldn't come back tomorrow. In fact, I don't want you to come back. I thought, I don't care what the client says. They're not going to disrupt this for everybody else. And they looked at me and they left. You know what happened? They showed up the next day. They participated, and by the 3rd day, they brought me flowers and a thank you card. Those were my early day obstacles, some of them.
It's character building.
As they say, right?
Yes, indeed. I'd love to know, I mean, you've been training now for decades, and really you have seen so many changes in this profession. And so how do you balance the more traditional training, because there are still things from back 30 years ago that are utterly relevant, but make sure that you're keeping up to date with what the innovation is out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I loved that when I saw that, Lucy. It's true, there are what I call them the timeless skills. What I said about attitude 33 years ago, I'm going to say the same thing, and I think that's the beauty for me, we focus on intrapersonal and interpersonal skills. And a lot of it doesn't change. I mean, what we talked about and how to manage conflict 30 years ago, we say the same thing today. Now, of course, it's managing conflict via Zoom, right? It's not just in person. So we do put that spin on it. And so to answer your question, I focus on whenever I'm working on materials or we're updating our STAR curriculum or world class, I go through that and I see what is still truly solid today. And I keep it there. I don't ever want it to go away. And then of course, I do a lot of reading, probably like you do, a lot of research. Every day I'm reading, getting research, looking at materials, seeing what's going on in the training industry, what's going on in companies, and then thinking what's happening in your workplaces, and then I pull in that combination. So like this year, we started talking about working in an uncertain world. We're in a world of uncertainty now today. We've added that to our attitude program. We added VUCA. You saw the word VUCA yesterday. Most assistants don't know what it is. We added that to our program. But we also now, when I updated the course, I had to also take into consideration hybrid employees, fully remote employees, and in person. So it's a lot of work, you know, but I want to do that. I want to be applicable to today's world.
Yeah, and we've seen over the last couple of days.
And you know that too.
Yeah,
right?
and it's hard, isn't it? Because everything just changed. So trying to keep up to date with what the newest things are and what businesses want is really, really interesting.
And I think that's a great comment, what businesses want. So pre-COVID, we worked specifically with the organizations bringing us on site. So I was on site, I saw it, I was in your workplaces, I could see everything. So that's how I used to learn. And then of course, COVID hit, all of that stopped, and I hadn't been in offices for 3 years. We were doing all virtual. And this year I got back into organizations. That's like my best learning, because I actually see the employees, I see the culture, I see the mission statements. I talk to the executives who tell me this is what we need, this is what's going on. So that's invaluable.
Certainly, and
Like
I
you said,
remember
with the
coming here directly after COVID. I think you were the first person I saw after COVID, and we sat downstairs and had a glass of wine.
Yes.
My goodness.
In Florida last year.
I mean, wonderful teaching online, but nevertheless, so good to be back with actual people. Yeah, and I know for you that the people are absolutely central to what you love about what you do, and so I would love to hear from you. Maybe choose a story which really sums up what you do for the administrative profession, and a particularly interesting memory, I guess, of training or of a person where you've really made a difference in their life.
This was so hard. I read that and I'm like, but I have 100 memories, which would be a great one. I think some of the memory, and there's many similar stories, but in one of our, again, in our STAR course, it's really teaching people a philosophy. So we teach a way of life, a way of thinking, a way of being, a way of performing, and it's an extensive course. But that's where I really find my great joy, because I'm with people 8 to 12 sessions, and so I really see them from when they first walk in. So I don't know why this is coming to my mind, but one of the students I had was going through the course, and we teach goal setting, and this person never knew really how to set goals for her personal life or professional life, and so we teach the whole process. And then they have to set a goal in class, and they have to set a deadline, and they have to write their action steps. And so this, I don't know why this is popping up. It's not huge, but it was huge for this person because she had never owned a home. They lived in a trailer, and they finally bought their first home, and they were older, a couple. They weren't like in their 20s. And I don't know why that comes to mind, but I have hundreds of stories like that. And so I think that brings me great joy to help facilitate that. They have to do the work. You know, they'll always say, thank you, I got my house. I'm like, I only gave you the message. You know, thank yourself because you executed.
And isn't that the thing? They have to come away from the training. I mean, I know you're all sitting there going, yes, we've got so much knowledge, we're going to go back, we're going to do the thing. And then when you get back to the office, it's, oh, the thing is hard. Am I right?
Very hard. It is. We all hear these great things, and I will say that's one thing. So I will tell you a little secret. I don't think it's on your list, but I'm going to tell you this secret. I take training very seriously. I always have, because one, it is serious in the way that I don't want you wasting your time. Don't come in if you have no intent of making some changes. you might as well not come. And I'm the same way. I go to a lot of classes, or I like to go to conferences, I should say. But one, your companies are making a tremendous investment in you. And I know as a business owner, we expect an ROI. It's not send you off for a day, go have fun and pump you up. That's why I started Office Dynamics. I used to go to the one-day skill path was around at the time. One day, pump you up, get you excited, and that was it. And I'm like, no, 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 no. We need things that create change. We got to get people to change a behavior. Well, that's not easy. And then you're investing. You're investing your time when you come to our trainings or when your company holds training. You are investing time, energy, so forth. So my bar is up here when our students and any of our trainers, when you come to training, we expect you to perform, execute, practice, script it, and we're going to critique you because we want to help you really make that change. We know there's hundreds of people out there now, training assistants, hundreds, they're all over the place. But are they creating behavior change? There's a difference between sharing your ideas, and I know this now because I've been on this journey for a long time. And that's what I'm about. You could talk to any of our trainers. They want to be that catalyst, and I know you do too, but we don't want to just light your flame and get you all excited. We want you to go out and truly make some changes.
For sure, for sure. You know, we've got the party tonight, and it's a theme of gold, and I'm loving the suit. Yes, this fits in with the theme beautifully today. But I guess there is going to be a legacy at the end of this, a golden legacy, and I would love to know what you would like that legacy to be.
I do want to leave a legacy for all of you. Like, for me, it's not just growing a business that I'm going to sell. You know, I have a lot of CEO friends, and, I belong to a group, and a lot of them want to grow their business so they could make several million. And then they go on to something else. But my hope is that you'll all continue on when I'm not around anymore. And I worked really hard. I hope to make a difference in your lives and in this profession because I love it very much. And you need to continue to be the light. And I'm not going anywhere for a very long time. You know, if God blesses me, I'll be here at 90 with my red lipstick probably all over my face. Brian will have to escort me up the stage. I may not remember everything I'm going to tell you, but yeah, I just want you all to go on, and we put in a lot of work, but we're not done.
And the legacy is clear. I mean, really, I said at the beginning that you are the giant on whose shoulders we all stand, and you have inspired a generation of trainers that are coming after you, that are going out there and doing their best to spread the word. And there are 500 million of you worldwide, assistants. It's a fifth of the world's working population. So I think, the more trainers we can get out there all over the world training, absolutely the better. So if there was one thing that you wanted to say to administrative professionals all over the world, as a message to take forward with them, to grow their careers, to grow their confidence, to turn them into the assistants that they absolutely deserve to be, what would you say to them?
I would say to bring your gifts forward. You all have gifts, special gifts within you. And don't let anyone dim your light ever. It might dim a little bit, but you've got to bring that back and bring your gifts forth for yourself and for your departments and your organizations, and be that catalyst, create the changes that you want to see, and be confident in all of that you can make a difference, you can change the world. Keep, have hope, keep your faith, don't let anything knock you down, and continue to be, as we said yesterday in our opening, be the best version of you and live your best and biggest life you possibly can.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Joan Burge.
No matter who you are.